Why did Captain Ibrahim Traore mobilize his people to plant 15 million banana trees across Burkina Faso's savannahs? At first, it sounded impossible. Bananas in the Sahel? A land known for dust storms, erratic rains, and creeping desertification? To the outside world, it seemed like a reckless gamble. Newspapers mocked him. Economists warned about water shortages. Diplomats whispered that he was risking his nation's survival. But to the Burkinabe people, the announcement was something different. It was bold. It was audacious. It was inspiring. For generations, they had been told what they could not do, that they could not fight the desert, could not feed themselves, could not prosper without foreign aid. And now their leader was telling them something radical. We will plant fruit where others see sand. We will harvest dignity as well as food. So, why bananas? Traoré's answer was strategic. Bananas are more than a fruit, they're a system. They mature quickly, within a year. They feed people directly, and their leaves and trunks can be turned into livestock feed. Bananas can be eaten fresh, dried, or processed into flour, creating multiple industries at once. Even more importantly, when planted in clusters, banana trees create microclimates, hold water in the soil, and act as living shields against desertification. This was never just about farming. It was about sovereignty. Burkina Faso's economy had long depended on cotton and gold industries vulnerable to global price shocks and dominated by foreign corporations. Bananas offered something new, a homegrown crop that could feed the people and break stereotypes. In a televised speech, Traoré declared, "Every tree we plant is a declaration of independence. We will not beg for bread while our land can grow fruit. We will not import livestock feed when our own trees can sustain them. We will not export our dignity to foreign corporations when we can export bananas ourselves." The plan shocked international analysts. No feasibility studies. No waiting for donor approval. No loans from development banks. Just a call to action, and the nation responded. Schools became nurseries where children tended seedlings. The army, once used only for defense, was mobilized to transport plants, dig trenches, and set up irrigation. Women's cooperatives were trained in cultivation and preservation, while local radio filled the air with songs urging people to plant for freedom, plant for tomorrow. Banana trees became a patriotic symbol. Traoré called them an army of bananas, 15 million soldiers that would fight hunger, poverty, and humiliation. And yes, there were failures. Seedlings died, storms hit, pests spread. But Traoré wasn't betting on perfection. He was betting on resilience. Even if global markets rejected them, bananas could be eaten locally. If fresh exports struggled, dried chips and flour could still bring income. This was a gamble, but one carefully hedged. Western corporations controlling Africa's banana exports began to watch with unease. But inside Burkina Faso, the people had already embraced the project. To them, it wasn't just about fruit. It was about pride. The world was not cheering. In fact, many were afraid. Competing exporters feared Burkina Faso's rise. Aid agencies warned the project would drain precious water. Foreign media mocked Ibrahim Traoré, calling him a populist chasing impossible dreams. But inside Burkina Faso, those criticisms had the opposite effect. Every insult became fuel. Every doubt became proof that sovereignty frightened the powerful. When the first seedlings were distributed, Traoré himself went to the frontier villages. Cameras captured him digging holes, his hands stained with earth. He planted shoulder to shoulder with farmers, children, and soldiers. His message was clear: this was not just government policy, it was collective destiny. Standing under the burning Sahelian sun, he declared, "The desert thinks it will win. But these bananas are our answer. 15 million trees, 15 million promises." And so, across the savannah, pits were dug and seedlings planted. Lines of green stretched across lands once written off as hopeless. It was not easy. The road ahead was brutal. But for the first time in decades, Burkinabe citizens looked at their soil with hope. They saw fruit where the world saw sand. And in that vision was the seed of a revolution. When the first rainy season arrived, the planting took on the feel of a national festival. Trucks rumbled through dusty tracks carrying millions of seedlings. Families gathered as if for celebration, children balancing buckets of water, elders blessing the earth, youth cutting furrows with hoes and machetes. Planting bananas had stopped being a technical task. It had become a patriotic ritual. But the challenges were unforgiving. The Sahel sun was merciless. Rains came all at once, then disappeared for weeks. Termites attacked the tender trunks. Goats strayed into fields. Sudden winds toppled fragile plants. Photos of withered seedlings began to spread, and international critics gloated, "We told you. Bananas cannot grow in the desert." And behind the speeches, science joined the fight. Agronomists introduced drought-tolerant banana varieties from East Africa. Solar-powered drip irrigation was installed in pilot areas, using small reservoirs to survive dry spells. Farmers were trained to mulch the soil with grass, locking in moisture and shielding roots from the heat. Traditional Z-pits, circular holes designed to capture rainwater, were adapted for banana seedlings. Every setback sparked a new wave of innovation. Communities responded with discipline and unity. Women's cooperatives organized dawn watering shifts, carrying buckets before the sun became unbearable. Youth brigades patrolled the fields to keep out livestock. Soldiers who once defended borders now defended banana groves, building fences, repairing pumps, and digging trenches. For the first time in living memory, growing food was treated like a campaign of national defense. And slowly, the green began to triumph over the brown. Survival rates improved. Villages reported rows of broad banana leaves fluttering like banners in the wind. Shade appeared where there had only been glare. Under that new canopy, farmers began planting beans, groundnuts, and onions, food harvested even before the first bananas ripened. The psychological impact was enormous. What once symbolized drought and despair now glimmered with hope. Farmers spoke of their orchards as wealth. One villager patted the thickening trunk of a banana tree and said, "This tree is my bank. When it fruits, I can feed my children and sell to the market. It will never betray me like foreign companies." Traoré framed the struggle as part of a greater war. Standing before crowds, he declared, "The desert thinks it is eternal. But every tree we plant is a bullet against it. 15 million bullets, 15 million victories." His words turned farming into patriotism. Children sang banana songs in school. Elders blessed seedlings at community ceremonies. Planting bananas was no longer just agriculture, it had become identity. International opinion began to shift. Environmentalists noted that banana groves slowed erosion, trapped moisture, and created microclimates. Economists recognized their potential as food, animal feed, and export. What once seemed foolish was now visionary. And even before bananas fully ripened, hope was already bearing fruit. Vegetables grown in their shade eased hunger. Millions of seedlings had died, and many more still struggled, but the survivors stood tall, green islands of sovereignty on the savannah. For the first time, the desert no longer looked unstoppable. It looked beatable. And that shift in mindset was revolutionary. By the fourth year, the once doubted fields shimmered with promise. Broad green leaves swayed under the Sahel sun, and heavy bunches of bananas hung like treasures against the harsh landscape. When the first clusters ripened, villagers celebrated as if welcoming newborns. Children carried bananas to market with pride. Elders tasted the fruit and declared, "Sweetness has returned to our land." The first harvest was modest, but the symbolism outweighed the numbers. Families that once relied on imported rice now had bananas to eat, dry, and sell. Women's cooperatives sliced bananas into thin strips, drying them in the sun for preservation. Markets filled with fresh baskets, and for the first time in years, people spoke of surplus instead of scarcity. Soon, the economics became undeniable. Trucks carried bananas to cities like Ouagadougou and Bobo Dioulasso. Urban families, once dependent on expensive imports, now bought Burkinabe bananas at affordable prices. Restaurants created banana dishes. Schools served them in meal programs. Within 2 years, convoys were crossing borders into Mali and Niger. What began as survival was turning into commerce. But Traoré's vision was never limited to villages. Long before the first fruits ripened, he instructed trade envoys to prepare international contracts. When production reached scale, Burkina Faso shipped its first containers to the Gulf. Dubai supermarkets proudly displayed labels reading, "Bananas of the Sahel, grown in Burkina Faso." Skeptical buyers were stunned. The bananas were firm, sweet, and competitive with coastal producers. Orders multiplied. Europe soon joined, branding them as desert bananas. The impact was dramatic. Banana exports generated revenues that rivaled cotton within a decade. Unlike gold, these profits stayed in the country, flowing into cooperatives, state reserves, and village projects. Wells were dug. Schools built. Solar grids installed. Women purchased flour mills and sewing machines. Youth launched startups producing banana chips, banana flour, even banana beer. And yet, the fruit was only half the story. Traoré's true genius was seeing the hidden value of the plant itself. Banana trunks and leaves, once discarded, became resources. Farmers shredded stems into animal feed. Chickens fed on banana fiber laid more eggs. Goats and cattle thrived on stock-based diets. Feed costs plummeted, sparking a livestock boom. Families now produce not just bananas, but eggs, milk, and meat, levels of abundance unseen before. The synergy was powerful: fruit for people, stocks for animals, and manure returning to the soil. Cooperatives wove crops and livestock together, creating resilience and food security. As one farmer put it, "The banana is our mother. She feeds us twice, once with fruit, once with fodder." International observers, once mocking, now marveled. Development journals praised Burkina Faso's model as climate-smart agriculture. Environmentalists noted how the growth slowed desertification and restored biodiversity. Economists highlighted the dual market strategy, fruit for export, byproducts for livestock, as a blueprint for self-reliance. What had been called folly was now studied as innovation. And culturally, bananas reshaped the nation's identity. Harvest festivals erupted with music, dance, and feasts. Children learned how their parents had fought the desert with trees. Songs on the radio praised the banana army.